Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you something.
It is 9:05. Just tuning in. We've been playing a lot of Beatles this morning. My sister flew in from Wilmington, Delaware. She's in the studio here this morning. And we're getting listeners locally and all over the country. Now you got somebody just tuned in from where? New York City?
New York City. Hey, Rosie.
Rosie. A shout out to Rosie in the Big Apple. And tell her to send in a request, huh?
I did.
Oh,
yeah,
okay. So
I did.
we're going to do that. And we're going to go back and visit a little bit more here. Let us know what you'd like to hear. You can text directly to the station at 844-993-0993. I'll give it again. And that is the number you can call as well. 844-993-0993. And since it is Carnival Day, this is Yacht Tuesday. How about the meters? They all axe for you.
Hey, thank you, Rick. And thank you so much for having me here. My very first Mardi Gras parade. And I have just a little something that I would like to give to you.
Oh, really, huh?
Yeah, really.
What?
It was given to me the other day, and it's something very special. I was told not to give it away unless it was something very special. So that's for you, and you'll have to tell the folks.
Oh, wow. I can't take this, huh?
Well, yeah, why not?
Wow, this is a nice... Why don't you tell them what it is? This is kind of... It's
Ricky knows what it is. It's Mardi
Wow.
Gras beads, but they are special beads, I was told. And I was told by the crew of...
Centaur.
We were at the Shreveport parade the other day.
Mm-hmm.
As I say, my very first Mardi Gras parade, and it was like no other parade on earth. Really. And one of the guys there, a former Centaur member, crew member.
Whose picture is in the paper, too.
Yeah, but mine is not. Mine
No.
got cut off. He told me that in honor of this being my first parade, I could choose a bead necklace. So I chose one that says 70s rock stars.
Yep.
And Ricky has since told me, that's special. You can't give it away. And I figure, wait a minute now. Ricky's special. Being here is special. These beads are special to this area down here. And he's my rock star. So,
Cool.
There
Well,
for
thank you.
you.
Yeah, we need
Yeah.
to take a picture and put them up there on the Facebook page. This is a real... I mean, I didn't realize this how... these things are heavy.
they are.
That you are wearing all day.
I know.
Neat job there, Centaur. We got to get the guy's name. Like I said, it was in the Shreveport Times. And boy, he had an alligator suit on, literally.
He did. He had two alligator heads on his, epaulets
Alligator epaulets is what it was. So, yeah, only in Louisiana. Well, thank you so much. 70s rock star, keeping with the theme, keeping with the request. How about Rockin' Sydney at Don't Mess with My Tutu?
Now you can look as much.
That's Paul Simon on the Peach 99.3, and take me to the Mardi Gras here on Fat Tuesday, and that's what Rick's Radio Rue is this morning, where we are ruing up, mixing up, mamboing up, if you will, Beatles, because this is the anniversary, the 52nd anniversary of the Beatles at the Ed Sullivan Show. On the Ed Sullivan Show, which was Studio 50 in New York, my sister from Wilmington, Delaware, in the studio. She was in the audience that night. And if you are just tuning in, it's kind of neat. You're experiencing radio. Now people are waking up all over the country, tuning in, and you've been here now for 2 hours. So we have to go back and tell them all of what we did 2 hours ago. But where folks are now, you got them on both coasts, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've got New York City, Wilmington, Delaware, North Jersey, Washington State.
Do they have names? Give them shout-outs, not just geography.
Hey, all right. Oh, God, there's too many people to... Well, let's start with Madeline. She's the latest one joining in. Special shout-out to Madeline. And we've got, let me see, my work friends. And if I start naming people, well, then I'll get in trouble because I forgot people.
Well, then they text back in, so we
They'll
could...
text me. Okay, fine. Well, Renee, Dana, Deborah, Nick. Who else? We have Karen, Tammy. And I'm sure Colleen must be listening. She better be.
All right, well, let's help for the sake of those just tuning in. You're watching the Beatles, and you got tickets because of a friend of yours that you went to high school with. Mm-hmm. And how close of a friend was this person?
We were good friends in high school.
Obviously, they invited
pretty
you.
good, darn good friends. Yeah.
They were from the same town?
No, they were from Ridgewood.
I got you.
Next town over.
Okay.
And as I say, their father had a connection with somebody at CBS.
Mm-hmm.
So he was able to get his hands on 4 tickets, gave them to his 2 daughters, and one of the 2, Mary Ann, my classmate, came to school and asked if I wanted to go to the Ed Sullivan Show on Sunday night. Sure.
and for the sake of those just tuning in, here it is, 1964. We're how many decades down the road of the Beatles? Back then, they just had their first number 1 hit, January 18 of 1964. So here it's February 9th, 1964. They were not as big as we thought they were. They were still just up and coming, so to speak, huh?
They were unknown. That night was the explosion.
Mm-hmm.
That's what just made it all happen. And it started, as I say, with an explosion. And it just never stopped. Never stopped.
All right. And then that night we talked about Frank Gorshin, who had a Batman connection, the television show Batman. And he was the Riddler who did impersonations. He was on the Ed Sullivan Show that night. And they interviewed him, I think, on the 50th anniversary 2 years ago, right?
No, I think it was earlier than that he had done that.
Okay,
yeah, they had done that. Yeah.
And he just remembers the screaming.
Mm-hmm.
and then another connection there was this Artful Dodger. Tell the folks about who the Artful Dodger was in Oliver and how that kind of launched into something else that everybody now knows.
Well, that would be Davy Jones of the Monkees. And from what I've come to know, he was backstage, behind the scenes, what have you, either waiting to go on or just having come off, whatever, and was so taken in by the screaming females that he figured, oh, this may not be a bad idea. And so that's where he went.
Yeah, so he was the cast of Oliver in the British presentation of it, the Artful Dodger, and he's like, maybe we can put together a rock band ourselves.
A career path here for me.
and it didn't turn out too badly for them as well.
Right. The Monkees. Everybody knows the Monkees.
So we got photographs. We're going to be putting them up on the Peaches Facebook page of you in the audience, as well as, again, for the sake of those just tuning in, you got back on the Ed Sullivan Show a month later and didn't even know you were going to be there because we all saw you as we're watching the show again and like, whoa, look, there's Ancy on stage.
And I even got to see it myself that time.
Explain.
Well, as part of the Ed Sullivan or the Beatles audience, of course, the cameras were running and they got some still photographs. And somehow our father got a hold of, well, he had a connection at CBS as well. And he got a hold of, I remember holding these contact sheets in my hands. And our father said, you can pick 2 pictures. So that's what I picked out, 2 pictures, and the rest had to go back to CBS. And I'm thinking, oh, my word, I'm so sorry that...
You let him go.
Yeah, that I was a good girl and said, okay, take him back. But we do have those 2 pictures, and I have 2 letters from some of the folks at CBS. So a close-up of me and my friends in the audience that evening. And then, as Ricky said, fast forward a couple of weeks, and the Dave Clark 5 was on, which was that group was also part of the British invasion. So they came on, and we're watching in our living room on our little old black and white TV.
Philco, if I record.
It was.
A Philco television.
Philco, yeah. And here's the Dave Clark 5, and all of a sudden, I don't know who, I don't remember who, but there's Ancy.
Yeah, behind the organist, because now I saw the picture. It wasn't a guitar player.
Yeah.
Whoever the organist was for the Dave Clark 5, boom, there you're on TV again.
Right.
Do you have your ticket stub? Did you have a ticket stub? Whatever happened to that?
We must have had something.
Right.
To get in. Do I have it? No, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
What I do remember, not from that night, but from that era, time period, what have you, you throw them on the floor.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You got in, you're there, you have your seat. That's it, done. You don't need it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, and who knew?
Right. Right. Now, there are only we say theater, and it's just bigger than life, but there are only 728 people there.
Yes.
Not a big theater by,
right.
Just kind of neat, sweet, and very small.
Yeah.
All right, so we got a request here. Who's this for? It's from the Sgt. Pepper's?
Yes, Sergeant. It's from Rosie in New York City.
All right.
Yeah.
Here you go, Rosie. This is for you. Long distance dedication. It's a song of encouragement from the Beatles, from Sgt. Pepper. You got to admit, things are getting better all the time.
I love it. It actually it reduces the road rage that I have inside of me. That's for sure.
99.3
The Peach.
It is a 2 for Tuesday here. Matter of fact, it's a 3 for Tuesday and a 4 for Tuesday and 1 for all and all for 5 on this Mardi Gras Tuesday special edition here. It's the anniversary of the Beatles at the Ed Sullivan Show in 1964, and my sister here in the studio. She was in the studio audience that night, and now Ants, all the folks are they want shout-outs, but shout-outs are fine. You got to make requests. Who's this Murray cat?
Murray is my friend, and he wants a shout-out.
All right, well, shout-out to Murray, but Murray, I mean, let's do some requests. We only got 30 minutes to go and 30 minutes to play here. I'm going to show Murray how to do it, right?
Okay.
All right, now... Where's Murray?
Murray's in Wilmington, Delaware.
Wilmington, Delaware. So he's listening right now, and we're hopefully embarrassing him a little bit because there's another person in Wilmington, Delaware, who's listening, who did make a request, and I think this is the extent of her vocabulary. I'm not sure. She had a friend, Tammy, right? Grew up with Karen, and I think the story goes that Karen one time rescued some wine because it was trapped in a bottle, and this is how she spoke for the next, 2 years. That's the Beatles off the Rubber Soul album here on the Peach, celebrating the Beatles with my sister, who was at the Ed Sullivan Show in 1964. And let me ask you this. Do you remember your first album that you bought? Beatles? Okay.
No. Yeah, I know. Yeah, thank you.
What did
I know what it looks like. It's the one with the four, the black and white.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, that was the first one. But did you have Rubber Soul? Because Rubber Soul was something altogether a little different.
I did. I mean,
you did?
That was
Okay.
further on down the road. Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Can I give a special shout out?
Sure.
To Bolivar?
Who sent that in?
Bolivar.
No, he didn't. Okay. All right, we got to get off the air real soon here. All right, let's do a quick break. Who sent that in? Somebody did. I'll get them back. All right, we won't tell who it is. 9:42 is the time as we are running out of time. A special edition takeover show here on the 9th of February. Mardi Gras in the state of Louisiana, also in South Mississippi, all along the coast into Mobile, and celebrating the 52nd anniversary of the Beatles, and being on the Ed Sullivan Show with my sister Ann, who was in the studio audience there that night. If you will, because I'm going to read the letter, because she couldn't be on the radio this morning. She just turned to grandmother. Last night?
I think the night before. I think, but she happens to be up in Boston, Massachusetts, where a snowstorm is happening. So she's got major events happening in her life this weekend. Right.
And so she was going to call in, and I put out, on Facebook, they got all these, I guess, what do you call it? Not clubs, what's the word I'm thinking of, where we grew up in Jersey in the 60s, and so I put out a call there if anybody was in the studio audience that night, because there were only 728 at the Ed Sullivan Show that night, to call in, and but they didn't. So, I mean, have you ever met anybody else besides your friends there that night?
There was one time, and yes, I have. I worked at one of the major newspapers in northern New Jersey for a short time. And one of the other girls who we had gone to the show with, Kathy, somehow or other, I don't know how the connection was made, we came across another woman who was at the Ed Sullivan Theater on February 9th. She saw the Beatles, but she saw them in the afternoon.
Ah.
Yeah, so she saw them for the rehearsal. So, as I said, the three of us got together. We had lunch at the newspaper, and it was great, a great afternoon reminiscing, what have you. And this girl, I can't even remember her name, and I feel badly about that. We're just comparing experiences and memories and what have you.
Well, when I was, there's this website, the website's everywhere, BeatlesBible.com, BeatlesBible.com, and they talk about the event of Ed Sullivan, and I didn't realize, here I thought, you did see him, it was live, but at the same time, they had a rehearsal in the afternoon that you're talking about. Then they also had pre-recorded future shows in the afternoon. But so what you actually saw was the first broadcast of the Beatles to America, but it was kind of neat. I didn't know that they did pre-recording in the afternoon.
I didn't either. I learned that today, yeah.
There's a lot we don't know. All right, well, set up, because I want to read. This is a great letter. Tell us who wrote this. This was the 12-year-old, correct?
Yes. This is Kathleen, the younger sister of my classmate, and she, I love talking to her about this. She talks about how, her sister dragged her to the show. And she didn't even know the Beatles, didn't care, what have you, but she very quickly became a convert. And actually, she's the one, if you ever see clips of Rain or the Beatles at the show, whatever, she's the one with the curly hair and her hands are in her fists, and she's jumping up and down screaming. That's Kathy.
All right. Well, we'll get that picture up on the Peaches Facebook page.
Right. So as I say, she's, what else? Oh, you know what? She went to Woodstock, too. So she's had some quite major moments in her rock and roll life.
All right. And so you said she's a writer, too, right?
She's a writer, yes. She's written a couple of books about the CCC, Civilian Conservation Corps. She travels around the country studying on it. She and her husband travel around. She's doing a lot of research. She's just a very busy, interesting lady.
And how did you get hold of this letter?
When we had gotten together, it might have been the day of that luncheon that we got together with the other woman.
Oh, really?
It's been a while. It's been a long time.
All right. Yeah. Well, this is kind of Kathleen Duxbury Yao. Yao. There are places I'll remember all my life, though some have changed. Some forever, not for better. Some have gone and some remain. All these places have had their moments with lovers and friends I still can recall. Some are dead and some are living, and in my life I've loved them all. And that sets up her letter and says, it was a freezing February day when we arrived early outside the Ed Sullivan Theater, tickets in hand, to see this new group that had just arrived from England. What time did you get there? Do you know? Guessing
probably around 6 or 6:30 or something.
For an 8 o'clock show, and it was live television.
Live TV, yeah.
We were dressed in our Sunday best, she writes. I had recently been given permission to wear nylons and pumps. We shivered in line as people approached and made offers for our tickets. That's when I first became aware of the importance of this event. You remember anybody trying to buy a ticket from you?
I don't. I remember waiting outside. I remember.
Got you. It was all my older sister's idea, who is Mary Ann Duxbury, now of San Antonio, Texas, had first heard about the Beatles on Murray the K's radio station, along with her friends, Ann Godley, now director, well, this is old, of a hospital in New Jersey, and Suzanne DeLuca, second grade teacher in Toms River, New Jersey. They were high school sophomore girls with a dream. You had a dream?
I had a dream.
Oh, you did? I never heard that dream. I, on the other hand, was an 8th grade kid sister. I didn't realize she was a tag-along, and her older sister didn't want her there that night, but oblivious to the reason for all the excitement. Marianne begged my father, the late George Duxbury, to please get tickets for the show. He worked in New York City. I thought he could do anything, is what she now recalls. But it is unclear how he managed to get and procure 4 tickets, but he did. As we entered the theater, she writes, we were directed upstairs to the front section of the balcony. I sat in the aisle seat, Marianne next to me, then Suzanne, then Ann. I was frozen and uncomfortable. Marianne recalls, I leaned over and said to her, I don't even know why I'm here. Shortly before the show started, a cameraman came up to us with what looked like a torpedo on his shoulder. Remember, this is 1964. And he said, hey, if you scream, I'll put you on TV. And that's all I needed to hear. I warmed up to the event immediately. He also asked us not to look at the camera and that there would be a light. I hurriedly asked my sister what the Beatles' names were again. Again, folks, this is what's happening to me. This is 1964. We think everybody knew who the Beatles were. They didn't. It's kind of neat. Then who knew at the time that 73 million people would be watching this show, or that this TV footage would later become one of the most requested in the history of television, or the impact that this foursome would have on the generations to follow. Perhaps if I had known, 12-year-old, who knows, right? I would have remembered their names. But when Ed Sullivan stepped out on stage to make that introduction, the blinding light from the camera next to me went on. And there we were. There they were, the Beatles. The music started. I pulled at my hair, jumped in my seat, and screamed out, Ringo and George! And if you were able to read my lips, I believe the other name I screamed that fateful night in February of 1964 was Henry. 12 years old. So much time has passed for all of us since that historic show, yet we four still share a unique bond. Almost every year since that night, our youthful images are shown somewhere. They have been used in movies, TV shows, and as backdrops in stage productions. Our 15 minutes of fame continues to live on, something none of us could have imagined. While writing this story, I was surprised and tickled when I realized that the 50th anniversary, which was 2 years ago, of the Beatles' appearance on the Ed Sullivan Show is, 20 years from now. So this letter is 22 years old. That letter is old.
Yeah.
And how old was she on the 50th anniversary, you say?
I have no idea. 64? Well, 64. Let's go with that.
There you go.
There you go, Kathy.
That's the Beatles on the Peach 99.3. We are where it is now, 9:53. Tell you what, 3 hours goes by quick when you relive the memories and press the memory buttons here. As boy, you didn't think it'd go this quick, huh?
No. Time flies, man.
Oh, yeah. My sister Ann in the studio sharing the memories of being on the Ed Sullivan Show in 1964 as well as the Beatles. If you'd like to take over the Peach, we'd love to have you. All you need to do is get your music together, pick 5 songs, and start from there. Go to 5, 7, 8. Doesn't matter. Email it, peachradio@gmail.com, peachradio@gmail.com. Get it in here and get on the air and have some fun with us. What else could we possibly say here this morning, man? It's
This has been great. Thank you. Oh. Memory lane, well, not all memory lanes are good, but this one in particular is a great memory.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it says it best there. What was the, in my life, there are places I'll remember all my life, though some have changed, some forever, not for better. Some have gone and some remain. So,
and this is one of the highlight of my life, whatever. I think about it and I just smile. It was great and it still is.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I love it. And it's still going.
It's still going. And that's what I can't believe.
I know.
You know?
All right. Well, closing thoughts, closing words, anything? Shout outs to anybody? Or?
Thank you. Shout out to the world.
Well, as they say down here, ants, all of y'all. Not y'all.
Shout out to all y'all.
All of y'all. And,
all y'all, yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're most welcome. And closing song is?
What did I say it was? I did good until now. With a little help from my friends.
There you
go. Yeah.